Thank you, sir. Gentlemen, thank you all for being here. And if you don't mind, I want to get a little parochial, and I'm sure y'all are prepared for this. And Secretary, in your remarks, opening remarks, you talked about the potential impact on projects that are unobligated. And that's why I have a series of specific questions. For example, Laughlin Air Force Base, depending on what year it is, and Del Rio, Texas, produces more pilots. It produces number one and number two number of pilots in the country. If it rained more than an inch, the flight line got flooded. I know y'all seen the pictures. It looked like a bathtub, and the planes moving around. Because of the support of this committee, we were able to address that in 3 phases. First phase is ongoing, but the second phase of this drainage project that will prevent the flight line of one of our nation's premier pilot training facilities from being flooded. The second phase is unobligated. So is this the type of project that could potentially be impacted by 2808?
Congressman, I don't want to speculate because I want to work with the services on specifically, as we defined earlier, the specific criteria that we laid out. In some cases, there are projects that are absolutely essential. In some cases, there are projects that could be delayed a month or 2. And without getting into specifics, I'd have to talk to the service on that specific project.
That's a good copy. So that's neither a yes nor a no as of right now.
That's correct, sir. And as I said earlier in my statement, we are not that far along yet because the acting secretary is yet to identify whether or not there are any examples of projects that we would have to fund from 2808 authorities.
That's a good copy. So also Joint Base San Antonio has one of the oldest military air traffic control towers in the country at Kelly Airfield. The first military flight happened in my hometown of San Antonio. The air conditioning system is failing, and as you know, in the great state of Texas, especially South Texas in the summer, it can be over 110 degrees multiple days in a year. Again, this is one of the projects that has unobligated funds, and based on your previous answer, I'm assuming this is a project that may or may not be impacted by 2808. Is that correct interpretation?
Congressman, that is correct. That's the analysis that we will go through here shortly.
And you also talked about how much, so not all of the FY 2019 funds have been obligated, is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
So there's $24 million in authorized construction projects for this fiscal year at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas, one of the largest Army facilities I think the largest Army facility in the United States. And do we know if any of those $24 million in authorized construction projects were actually obligated?
Congressman, I'd have to take that question for the record. I don't have that in front of me.
I appreciate that. And then the second question that I would ask you to take for the record is, if there is some of those $24 million in authorized construction projects at Fort Bliss are unobligated, could they pretend, I'm assuming based on your answer to your previous 2 questions, that they could or could not be impacted by the emergency declaration of 2808?
Congressman, I can't answer that question, and that's part of the analysis process that we're still going through, and it would depend upon what the Secretary of the Army, in conjunction with his staff, determined in terms of priorities, if any of their dollars were to be used, any of their military construction dollars were to be used, assuming the acting secretary had said we were going to use 2808 authority.
That's a good copy. And one, I can't even imagine what it's like to manage 28 million acres, 500 installations, 500,000 buildings, and more than $1 trillion of structures. But it's because of folks like you. We have the greatest fighting force in the world, and I know the difficult situation that you're in, but we appreciate your questions today. Chairman, I yield back.
Congressman.